Assalamu alaikum, Brother Sadik, Professor O'Donnell. How are you?
We're doing good. How about yourself?
Alhamdulillah, thank you. Good to see you. So we are going to start, inshallah.
All right.
All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to our program, Spiritual Fireside Chat. I am honored to have two very special guests, Brother Sadik and Professor O'Donnell. I will introduce them to you, and inshallah, before that, I would like to recite a few verses from Surah Al-Hashr, chapter 59, and the verses from 18 to 21. And then after the recitation, inshallah, we're going to talk about preserving and sharing our legacy and the Islamic Center of Southern California's history project, inshallah. But let me recite first, and then we will start with our topic. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون صدق الله العظيم. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, O you who have attained to faith, remain conscious of God, and let every human being look to what he sends ahead for tomorrow. And once again, remain conscious of God, for God is fully aware of all that you do. And be not like those who are oblivious of God, and whom he therefore causes to be oblivious of what is good for their own selves. For it is they who are truly deprived. Not equal are those who are destined for the fire and those who are destined for paradise. Those who are destined for paradise, it is they alone who shall triumph on Judgment Day. had we bestowed this Quran from on high upon a mountain, thou wouldst instead see it humbling itself, breaking asunder for awe of God. And all such parables we propound unto men so that they might learn to think. God Almighty has spoken the truth. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Peace be upon all of you. As I mentioned, I have two special guests with me, and tonight's topic is preserving and sharing our legacy, inshallah. First, I will invite our brother Sadik Alloo. Before that, I would like to introduce him. Most of you know Brother Sadik. He is a longtime volunteer at the Islamic Center of Southern California since 1979. And he has been on the board for several times and had undertaken with a team of volunteers like Hashim Sharif, late Ziad Awad, and Zain As-Sabri to automate membership services and streamline administration system. So he has been away for a while now and has come back, alhamdulillah, to co-lead with Hashim Sharif the efforts to document the fascinating history of the Islamic Center of Southern California. So I would like to welcome our beloved brother Sadik Alloo.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Asim. It's Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and to be back home, so to speak. I'm glad that we are involved in this project, and really, it's a fascinating project. One that we're very excited, and we've received a lot of support, and would like you to really think about also joining our efforts, because this is not an effort that can be done by one or two or three people. It takes a lot of people. It takes a team to document this wonderful history. I wanted to go over what the project, how we envision the project to be. Okay. As soon as I get my screen up here, let's see. How do I present the slides?
You are screen sharing.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping you can see the slide. Yes?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. This is a picture of Islamic Center, the first center that they bought. What's amazing about this is really, you look at the people who are here. They're all shades and colors. And what is fascinating is that at inception, this was the goal. This was the goal, to get people together, bound just by the faith. They needed to give and take and adjust the cultures to come together and be bound by their faith only. And there are very many had different objectives or what brought them into the center. Some were because of the children, but what is fascinating is that this was really an effort that was started by a man from Bangladesh. He was a cook at Ambassador Hotel. It's no longer there in downtown LA. He was working there, and apparently what moved them was there were no services. They didn't have somebody passed away, from what we understand. We need to confirm that. And suddenly it dawned on them that they don't know how to do anything in this strange, so to speak, strange land that they came to. And it forced them to come together. And there were not very many people of the same kind. So there were not very many Iraqis or Iranians or Bangladeshi or whatever. So it forced them to come together as a group and start some services. They started in Fountain Avenue. There was a very colorful and dynamic guy by the name of Hassan Khayyam. He was an actor, and he's been in very many movies on the Queen of the Amazons, and the Calcutta, the Razor Age, Casbah, Intrigue, and he was a moving force. He was a dynamo. He put together this group, and then he found a gentleman who came from Iran, Sheikh Ghalidari. You might know his son, Ali Ghalidari, was here. And he was well versed in, he had some training in traditional Islamic thing. And he came up and they started this group. They moved then to City Terrace. From City Terrace, they went to, and this is the picture for City Terrace building. And from City Terrace, they went to St. Andrew's Place. And from St. Andrew's Place in 1976, they came up to Vermont. But I wanted to share with you what the project is about, how we envision the project. And this is not cast in stone by any means. It's just we're learning as we go along. And Professor O'Donnell has been really wonderful in guiding us through. Not only that, but the work she has done is tremendous help, and it formed the foundation for our work. If it had not been for that, it would have taken us a long time to get where we are at right now. But why do we want, and this is a project that has been approved by the board in February of 2020, and it's a project, as Sheikh Asim said, preserving and sharing our legacy. Why do we want to do this? What is our objective? We want to identify what made Islamic Center unique. We want to learn about the past challenges to chart the future. And we want to preserve this information for people who come after us, or researchers, for investigation, further investigation. Some of the things that the center did were really cutting edge stuff in terms of thinking. And I think even today it stands apart from a lot of things that they've done. This is our roadmap. What do we plan to do? We plan to collect information, which is well underway. And as I said, Professor O'Donnell's work has formed a foundation, has given us a head start, a running head start rather. We also want to then continue conducting the interviews of the old, the young, those who are very young, and that is ongoing. And then we want to preserve the archive. We want to try and build an archive. And Amalia Sichik, who's a library, who's a graduate of a library of sciences, and she's the one who's helping us guide through this. We then want to collect all this information and be able to publish. One of the things that we're trying to publish, because people don't read very much these days, is create a coffee table phone book. And we're collecting pictures and all of that. And then finally use the social media to do it. And that we are, at least I can speak for myself, I'm technically challenged, so we'll need to find the younger people who can do this for us. This is the timeline. We are in almost phase 2 now. COVID has set us back a little bit, but we're still doing okay. What will it cost? We figure right now around $16,000. How can you help? There are 3 ways you can help. You can share your memories with the center, okay? Your stories of your family or whatever, an interaction, the family, the pictures, the videos, copies of the minaret if you have, and then join our team. Join our team to write, to research, and we'd love to have you. And then, of course, we always need the fuel to drive this. So we hope you will come forward and give us your donation. How do you contact us? We have an email that'll go to all of us, ICSC history@islamiccenter.com, or you can feel free to call me whenever you can. I'd love to chat with you and see how you can help. Okay, I'll turn it over now to Brother Asim.
Myself, okay. Thank you so much, Brother Sadik. Now, before I introduce Professor O'Donnell, I would like to ask kindly, if you have any questions, please post in the chat box so I can read for our guests, either for Brother Sadik or Professor O'Donnell. So Professor Mary Jane O'Donnell is a lecturer at Department of Religious Studies, School of Humanities, California State University at Northridge. She has been involved with researching and documenting the history of Islamic Center of Southern California since 2002. In fact, Islamic Center of Southern California was the focus of her PhD dissertation. There was a booklet mailed to the community in the last 2 weeks. I hope you all received it, by Islamic Center of Southern California. And this was a reprint of the article about the center written by Professor O'Donnell. It was previously published in a book called Race, Religion, Region Landscapes of Encounter in American West, published by the University of Arizona Press in 2006. Her interests include identity, change, and innovation in urban religious communities. She is also the author of Finding God in the City of Angels in Discover Los Angeles, published by Getty Trust Publications, J. Paul Getty Museum. So please welcome Professor O'Donnell.
Well, thank you very much. That was a wonderful introduction. And I cannot tell you how pleased I am to be here. It brings back very fond memories of what is now, unfortunately, a long time ago. As you're right, I started this in 2002 when I had the incredible good fortune to be introduced to Dr. Omar Alfi. And I was still studying, I think for my, well, I don't know, it was PhD at that point, I guess, at Claremont Graduate University. And it was at a time when the school, at the School of Religion at CGU, wanted to expand its understanding of religion or the things that it would teach about religion. It had been a very much Judeo-Christian kind of focus. But as a result, the dean at the time, Karen Torgeson, brought together a group of people and they served on a board, and Dr. Alfi was the head of the board. But there were Mormons and there were Buddhist, and there were many other traditions that normally had not been covered at the School of Religion at Claremont Graduate University. And Dr. Alfi at one point mentioned to her, oh, by the way, do you know somebody who could help us? We are coming up to our 50th anniversary at the center, and we really had never systematically built a history at that point. And would there be somebody who could help? And by the grace of God, Dean Torgeson asked me if I wanted to do it. And I think I was on my way to the center before I was able to even say yes. And then, of course, meeting Dr. Alfi was an extraordinary moment. And he was a guide throughout the whole of the history. Now, what I'd like to say right now is that the way that I approached this, because at the beginning I thought I was writing a fairly brief history of the center for the anniversary. And I would sit in the conference room, and I'm sure everybody knows where the conference room is, on the second floor. And Dr. Alfie would bring in representatives from the 1950s. And then a week later, and so we go through the 50s for a week or so. And then we would go through the 60s for a week or so. By the time we got to the 70s, it was several weeks because, as you know, by the 1970s, many more Muslims were coming to America, and many more people of different ethnicities, nationalities, faith traditions, et cetera, were coming as well because of the Immigration Act of 1965. And so there was a point at which there was a kind of gelling at the center, at least from my perspective, it seemed. And then we went on to the 80s and the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s, when of course 9/11 happened. And so that was one of the things that rather informed, I wouldn't say it certainly didn't inform the whole thing, but it was something that we played off of in terms of how people who were coming to the center from other nations, how they were able to begin to adjust not only to the culture of America, but to being in a tradition where there was suspicion about the faith that they had. However, the center was led by extraordinary people at that time, which again, I don't have to tell you that. The doctors Hathout, there were many others that were there as well. And it was, I don't know, it was really, it helped me in terms of my dissertation, of course. But as a person, it was like meeting the wise ones, the wisdom that was coming across. It wasn't just answers about, well, we did this and we did that. The approach, the thoughtfulness, all of that was there. Now, my primary technique for doing it, and what I'm bringing up now, is because this is in some ways what, if you want to, you could do as well, was through oral history. I find it an incredibly fascinating way to approach finding out about something, hearing people's stories, the stories of a certain time that they were in a certain place. In the case of the center, it would be at the time when they were just building. For example, when they did get the facility in City Terrace, it was the first time they were responsible. These people were responsible for running the center and financially responsible, as well as in terms of the programming and what have you. And it was, I don't know, I found it such a noble thing that these people who had their families, they were young. It was a struggle. It was absolute struggle, but they did it. And then I think that you begin to see that I just like knowing what those stories were. And I like knowing things that were not just about dates and times and places and what have you. It was really getting to know a place and really getting to have everybody's story. We all make up history. We think only the generals and the poobahs and whatever all make up history. No, it's us. I mean, we make up history. And the people of the Islamic Center of Southern California are making up your history as you go along. And I think it's important to hear voices from that, which is essentially one of the reasons why Sadik Alloo was interested in what I did, because it was, you hear these voices. I had a number of tapes. I gave them to the center and to Sadik Alloo, and they've been transcribed now. But you hear the voices of these people that you may not have heard because you are too young, or you did not know them, and they're no longer here. But I think it's a very worthwhile project for the center to carry on, because it becomes a living history as well, and it is who you are. And I think the Islamic Center of Southern California has certainly played an important role in in Los Angeles, not only in terms of Islam, but in terms of the community. And I know that was one of the things that at that point, the folks who were in the 70s and were very consumed with an American Muslim identity and very much wanted to participate, not only obviously in developing Islam in a new culture, but also to develop a relationship with the city and with the larger population. And I think they were able to do that quite well and with great grace. So I think that is enough for me right now, but if anybody has questions, I would love to answer them if I can.
Oh, thank you so much, Professor O'Donnell. I have two questions here. The first one is for Brother Sadik. This is from one of our listeners asking, Brother Alloo, did you interview Shamim Ibrahim, as she is the pioneer in many of Islamic Center of Southern California's projects? She is the first woman become member of the board of the Islamic Center of Southern California. So just
yes, we very much have in mind to do that. She's an educator too, and she established quite a few things. And yes, we have it on our list. And thank you for suggesting that. And we do plan to do that.
Great, thank you so much. And the second question is, I'm going to read as is. For writers, do they need to be experienced, either Professor O'Donnell or Brother Sadik? I don't know what exactly the question means. I don't know if you, it says, for writers, do they need to be experienced?
Professor O'Donnell, you'll take that?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think at the beginning, one of the, what I used was audio tape. You know, when you're conversing with someone, you don't want to sit there and keep writing what the person is saying down. And it also gives you their voice. At that time, I actually had a tape recorder. Now you can just use your iPhones or smartphones and what have you to do it. But the first thing to do, it's an arduous process. There's no getting around it, but you transcribe that. And then I would say the writing part comes, depending on how all of this is arranged, when enough of a particular era is gathered that you have a story to tell. One of the things that was very helpful to me, because I really, as I say, I wasn't really anticipating any more than just helping Dr. Alfie out on a, what appeared to be a fairly small project. But he was very astute to have people who came in chronological order, so to speak. In the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s. So it wasn't all over the place. You kind of got a picture of what the 50s was like. You got a picture of what the 60s was like and what have you. And so I think that the writing part comes after the material is gathered. On the other hand, in terms of transcribing things, in terms of, I would say, wanting to ask questions of people, of having questions or your own. If you have certain memories that you would like to share, it would be good to include that as well. Pictures are always good as well. Any kind of memorabilia is always good. And of course, now it's so much easier because we have scanning. You can do scanning for or all of this. So it's not as though if you had precious pictures, you don't have to give them up. They could just be scanned. And if you have other things that you don't want to give to the center, you can somehow they can be captured electronically. But in terms of the writing, it would be at the end, and I think yes, you would have to what can I say? You might want to. Well, why not try it? I mean, this is your. If you're interested in doing it, I think you should. And I think you could write questions for people. I think you could I think you could go out in teams, for example, and ask questions and that kind of stuff. I had thought when I was still in the midst of doing this, it would be good to get the youth group at the center to, again, because they are technically more proficient than many of us, and also I thought the generational thing of the youth interviewing the older folks at the center. But if they brought things in, they could be scanned right there, and people could, things could be discussed at the center, and then they could then be captured either in audio or in scanning. I know it doesn't directly answer your question, but I think the writing comes later.
Thank you, Professor. I don't see any other questions. Do you have any questions?
To add to what Professor O'Donnell would just say, we will provide. We're here to provide help. We've done some transcribing, as Professor O'Donnell said. She had about 18 tapes, and it's fascinating to hear the voices because we just did it last year, and it's fascinating to hear their voices and and of course Professor O'Donnell was very skillful in getting insights and the depth of their thoughts and capturing that on tape, and that's very useful. So couple of things. Number one, record it. We can help you provide the questions or whatever. We're developing a synthesis where we have just a general outline of what is going, so you'll have some background to do that. And then the writing will come later, as Professor O'Donnell said, and we can provide help with that too, editing, once you put the material together.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much. So you said you have some questions, Brother Sadik. Do you have any question to share with?
No, I just to really thank Professor O'Donnell for taking the time and the guidance, not only now, but I keep bugging her quite a bit, and she's always precious.
So then
I wanted to really thank her, and we've benefited tremendously from her.
We just got another question. So it says, how is this study, research, or book going to impact the millennials who are shying away from religion and visiting our mosque? That's a good question. Would you like to take?
Okay.
Well, I think that is an incredibly interesting question. And one of the things that is very interesting about it is that I think about it not only because I teach religious studies at Northridge, and it's very interesting how people, when I first started there in 2006, there was a huge interest in religion, and especially in Islam. I mean, people really wanted to know what the tradition was. Americans wanted to know what the tradition was. And I taught that at the very beginning of when I was there. I now teach religion and politics. And but there is a real falling away. I mean, there is absolutely falling away from faith in almost all denominations, which is, I think, very sad. But I think that one of the points that I didn't really make it, because just the stories made the point, was that the people in the 70s were really trying to prepare the center for an American Muslim identity, but that wouldn't really be fully realized until the generations to come came. It would not be realized immediately with people who had just arrived. It would be kind of obtained with their children and their children's children and so on. And if you see a fallout in that, then it becomes troubling, I think. But I think that it's still, I think it's very interesting. I think it'd be interesting to really find out why people are dropping away, why people aren't, and especially in terms of the Muslim community, why they aren't as interested as maybe youth were a decade ago. And so that could be that could be a focus of one of the things that you do is what's going on here. I think many religions could do that. It's not just Islam. at all. But I think that's an incredibly important question. Incredibly important.
Great, thank you so much. And there's another question. It's when you defended your thesis, did you get interesting questions that you remember today?
When I was defending my thesis,
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting because one of the members of the committee was in Tehran, another was, I forget where, someplace far, far away. And Zain Qasim, who I have to credit, I have to stop for a moment. When I first went to Claremont, I was at Pomona College took a class at Pomona College from Zain Qasim, who taught Islam. And we became friends, but I loved learning about Islam. And this was before 9/11. And it was she who also helped who got me through my dissertation. When I really thought I'm going to go somewhere and just hide for the rest of my life or what have you. But it was one of the things that did happen. It wasn't so much an interesting question because I frankly don't remember that much of it. I was just sort of stunned going through it. But you couldn't hear people that well. Things were not technologically as sound as they are now. And I sort of just kept talking. I just kept pontificating, what have you. And at the end of it, they somehow let me through. So I felt very happy about that. But it was an incredible it was just incredible. I loved Claremont. I just absolutely love Claremont. And I loved the opportunity to then visit and to get to know the center as well as it did.
Great, thank you so much. I love Claremont as well. I did my master's degree on Islamic studies at Claremont Graduate University. So I know how it feels.
Yes, exactly. It's just a beautiful community, and it's walking on the streets. I loved it. I loved it. Okay, well, we'll talk about that later.
So, and there's another question. It's similar to the first question. It says approximately 200 churches are for sale in Southern California due to lack of membership. Primarily, it is the baby boomers are. How do we stop this scenario from occurring for mosques in 2050? Okay.
Do you want me to answer that?
Well, I mean, the question is for you.
I don't know. I have to say, I think that is absolutely something, not just for academic study, for real research to find out what the deal is. I think that there's always been a divide between, and don't get, I'll start teaching and you don't want that. You don't want, but essentially in the 19th century, there was this huge divide between the modernist and the fundamentalist in Christianity, having to do with Darwin's theory of evolution, having to do with the Enlightenment. People can think for themselves that the idea of being tethered to a faith tradition or belief only in the Bible is the only depositor, or sort of possessor of truth, was no longer appropriate. And I think it's continuing to go on. And I don't know why. I really don't know why. I almost think, and sometimes it's really affecting the health of the religious studies department, because not only are people not interested in being religious, they're not interested in knowing about a religion. And so one of the things I would like to propose is essentially courses on this very topic, of why are people, what is it about the religious tradition that people no longer find satisfying, or no longer find helpful or useful, or whatever it is. So, but I wish I could tell you. I really wish I could tell you, but I can't. But it is a very important thing to look at. And it's not to say that let's bring, I think the folks that I talked to had this real sense that you can't go home again. You can't go back. You always have to move forward. And one of the things was that with Islam, or the practice of Islam in America, it was going to have to be different because the culture here was different. That didn't mean that you diluted Islam. It meant that you looked for the very core of the tradition. and maintain that. And I think that you know, I think that religions or any kind of religious institution has to think long and hard about this demographic shift, which has occurred rapidly. In 2012, the largest group of people that the Pew Foundation for Religion, the study of religion, found were nuns. And I don't mean the Catholic ladies in habits. I mean NONES. And that meant that when asked what faith tradition are you, they would say none of the above. And that was the largest and the strongest growth group of mainline Protestants, of evangelical Christians, of Catholics, of Jews, of Muslims, of everybody else. And nothing was growing with the rapidity that the nuns were. And that was in 2012.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And there's a statement from one of our listeners says, religion perpetuates what has been going on and youth are looking for good change. So, and the next question, maybe the last question, is a little personal. It says, how can we get in touch with the professor if she doesn't mind? Well,
Oh, well, I can answer that. I guess I know where I am. I don't know. I think I know where I am. My email address at Northridge is is mjod at csun.edu.
Perfect. Great. I don't see any other questions and our time is up. So on behalf of Islamic Center of Southern California, I would like to thank you, Professor O'Donnell and Brother Sadik, for this beautiful, beautiful project. May God bless both of you. And thank you so much. So, and our audience also sending a lot of thank yous. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may God bless both of you. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And before we end, dear brothers and sisters, again, as you see on the screen, 3 ways you can help. Either share your memories with the center, be it pictures, videos, etc. And then the second thing is join our team as a writer or historian. And then the final way that you can help our center is by donating. Inshallah, you see all the information on the screen. And thank you so much as well, our audience, for joining us tonight. So now it's time for Salatul Isha. I am going to call the adhan and then we will pray. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله الله. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا ومن الليل فتهجد به نافلة لك عسى أن يبعثك ربك مقاما محمودا. وقل رب أدخلني مدخل صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق واجعل لي من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا. وننزل من القرآن ما هو شفاء ورحمة للمؤمنين ولا يزيد الظالمين إلا خسارا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. وإذا أنعمنا على الإنسان أعرض ونأى بجانبه وإذا مسه الشر كان يئوسا. قل كل يعمل على شاكلته فربكم أعلم بمن هو أهدى سبيلا. ويسألونك عن الروح قل الروح من أمر ربي وما أوتيتم من العلم إلا قليلا. ولئن شئنا لنذهبن بالذي أوحينا إليك ثم ثم لا تجد لك به علينا وكيلا إلا رحمة من ربك إن فضله كان عليك كبيرا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. تحيات لله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صراط الذين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. تحيات لله والصلاة. السلام عليكم. اللهم صل على سيدنا ربنا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله. استغفر الله. استغفر الله العظيم الذي لا إله إلا هو. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام. تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. سبحان الله. 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 الحمد لله. الحمد لله. الحمد لله. الحمد لله. الحمد لله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله الله أكبر. الله الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير.
اللهم لك الحمد كله. O Allah, yours is the praise. اللهم ابسط علينا من بركاتك ورحمتك وفضلك ورزقك. اللهم إنا نسألك النعيم المقيم الذي لا يحول ولا يزول. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وطاعتك. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. O Allah, bestow on us from your blessings, mercy, grace, and provisions. O Allah, we ask you for the eternal delight that never ends or fades away. O Allah, make faith dear to us and beautified in our hearts, and make disbelief, sin, and disobedience disliked to us, and make us among the rightly guided. O Allah, we ask you for guidance, taqwa, virtue, and sufficiency. O Allah, the controller of the hearts, turn our hearts to your religion and obedience. O Allah, show us the truth as true and inspire us to follow it, and show us falsehood as falsehood and inspire us to abstain from it. Allahumma shfi mardana warham mautana. O Allah, please bless the souls of those who passed away before us. O Allah, please give quick healings for those who are sick. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. وصل اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. صدق الله العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين من الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our prayers, our du'as, dear brothers and sisters. Again, thank you so much for joining us, our spiritual fireside chat. And again, I would like to thank one more time from the bottom of my heart to our beloved brother Sadik, Alloo, and Professor O'Donnell for leading this beautiful project. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them. Please keep them in your prayers, inshallah. And before we leave, there is a request. One of our community members passed away. I'm asking dua for my mother, Dr. Naheem's grandmother, Fitnatu Zamani, who passed away 12:15. Yeah, a few days ago we were praying for her. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless her soul, inshallah, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you patience and strength. I know it's difficult to lose parents and mom, grandparents. Uh, Again, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you strength and patience. And I extend my condolences. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless her soul and a dua for her, inshallah. اللهم اغفر لها وارحمها وعافها واعف عنها وأكرم نزلها ووسع مدخلها واغسلها بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقيها من الخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. اللهم ادخلها الجنة، اللهم ادخلها الجنة وأعيذها من عذاب النار، وأعيذها من عذاب النار. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mercy upon her soul, inshallah. And please join us. Tomorrow is Friday. Our khatib is going to be Imam Tariq Aqil, and the program is going to start at 12:50 with Quranic recitation, and the khutbah starts at 1 p.m. So until then, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good night. Have a great sleep.